Hey guys, it's Dr. Delvena, the Queen of Brain Love. It's time for another episode of the Brain Love Podcast. I haven't been on YouTube a whole lot, but I'm back and I'm bringing you some quality interviews. Tonight I have on the couch a dating and love coach. I have tonight Dr. Josya, a board-certified family physician and love and dating coach. Her goal is to help single professional women date with purpose so they can meet their husbands. Ooh la la. We are going into a lot of details about how women can, try to perfect themselves as much as possible, dig deep, and then find their mate. So please join us on the couch tonight. Brain Love, are you ready to take the couch?
Really needs to be felt. Serve me on, don't make me feel on myself. Brain food, brain sleep, neurology, health. Brain love on me. I need you to assess, diagnose, and treat. Reveal what's underneath. Some brain love will give me peace. Prescribe me some doc. Ooh, baby. Brain love on me. Brain love. Yes. Brain love. Yes. Brain love.
Hey, Dr. Josya.
Hey, Dr. Delvena.
Are you ready to take the couch?
Yes, I am.
Cheers. Awesome. I'm so glad I finally got you on the podcast. Wait a minute, I got to sip. When we do this tap, cheers, we got to sip.
Oh, for good luck, of course.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we're so healthy. We're drinking hot tea. This is not champagne. This is not vodka. This is not rum. This is hot tea. Nice.
Yes.
So I'm excited for this conversation today because we are talking about something that a lot of people struggle with. It's a struggle for men and women. We're talking about dating. We're talking about matchmaking and finding your bride and your husband, or finding your husband?
Finding your husband, because I focus on women.
Okay. So before we get into the meat and potatoes, can you tell the audience who is Dr. Josya?
Yes, so Dr. Josya, I am a board-certified family medicine physician. I am also a love and dating coach. I am a wife of now 6 years, been together with my husband for 9, and a mother of a 2-year-old toddler son, aka the 2-foot tyrant.
Okay, the 2-foot tyrant.
Yes.
Wow. Those days are so long and gone for me. They are over. Mr. Tajay is almost 28. So good luck.
Thank you.
But before you had the 2-foot tyrant,
yes,
you had to find your mate first.
Yes.
Yeah. So how difficult was it for you?
I think it was... When I was ready, it wasn't difficult. When I wasn't ready, it definitely was a challenge. I mean, I've been down here in Florida for about 10 years now, and when I moved down here, I literally moved down with everything that could fit into my car. I finished my training program. I grew up in Philadelphia, born and raised there, trained up there, had enough of winter, and so when I came down, it was literally everything that could fit in my car, and the plan was to just live on South Beach and just...
and ball out of control.
And just ball out of control.
Have a good time.
And I think of, a few months into it, I was like, what am I doing here? I literally moved here, I have no family, no friends. And I think the desire again to want to be with a partner came again. And so that time around, a lot of introspection happened, a lot of inner work happened. And then I remade my profiles on dating apps because I deleted all of them prior to that. And within 2 weeks of opening my apps, I met my now husband.
Really?
And he was my third date.
Wait a minute, can't gloss over that. Within 2 weeks of reopening your app, your profile, you met your now husband.
Yes.
Within 2 weeks?
Within 2 weeks.
Was there prayer
there
before?
Was definitely prayer. Definitely prayer.
Okay. Did you fast and meditate and do all that stuff too?
I didn't fast. In fact, I probably ate too much. But definitely prayer, definitely some serious soul searching had to happen before that took place.
So you had been in Miami or Florida for how long before you decided to resume your profile or reopen your profile?
About 6 months. I came in the summer of 14, and we met in January of 2015.
So when you got here, were you thinking about dating and finding a husband, or you were just thinking,
definitely not,
I want to kick it?
I want to kick it. In fact, I was dating a guy right before I left, and I remember I bought him a train ticket with me because I was taking the auto train from Philly down from Virginia to Orlando. And so the plan was going to help me move in, and I even brought him a plane ticket to go back. And literally maybe a day before I was leaving, he's like, I can't go with you, even though he took the days off from work. I was like, oh, okay. So I was pretty sad on that train ride, but then I met someone on the train, but it made the train ride a lot easier. Like I said, I wasn't of the mindset of settling down. I was like, I'm going to I had an apartment in South Beach. I was blocks from the beach. The plan was to go and have fun and see, and I never came here thinking this would be permanent. I never thought I'd end up being with the house and the suburbs and the kid. So yeah, that's how that kind of went down.
So it only took you 6 months to get it out of your system.
Yeah, I would say that.
We're a lot faster than guys. I think guys have to sow their oats a lot longer than 6 months.
Well, I mean, I did sow oats prior to the time I was in Philly in residency and everything, medical school and residency. So I think it got to a point I was like, okay, I'm ready. I think it got to the place where I didn't want to go home with someone, but I wanted to go home to someone.
Gotcha.
And started making that connection. I was like, okay, it's time for something different.
So I heard you mention being on dating apps. Mm-hmm. Was that your inspiration for starting your own company?
It was part of it, yeah, because with being able to meet him online, and I know that the day and age we live in, pretty much we do everything online. We shop online, we chat with people online, we've met online, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you cannot ignore having that aspect when it comes to dating. And I think there's definitely a strategy and a way to approach it so people can actually find quality potential partners.
What do you say to the folks who are anti-dating apps? Oh, you can't find your mate on a dating app. It's too hard. You don't know who they really are. They're hiding behind this or that. It's digital. You're not really seeing the real them. What do you say to people who are anti-dating apps?
You got to move the dating to offline as quick as possible.
Okay.
That is the key thing to it. As I mentioned, when I met him, I'm not saying everyone's going to meet their partner in 2 weeks, but he was my third date. And I was very clear and focused on what I was looking for. Wasn't desperate. There's a difference. But
Wait, gotta emphasize. I wasn't desperate. There is a difference. Okay.
Yeah.
Desperation will make you do things you wouldn't ordinarily do.
Correct.
Yeah.
And in fact, that only attracts the wrong kind of person your way.
Yeah.
So say you have your 40, 50-year-old woman who's, been in church, doing all things the right way, got her degrees, made the family happy. Now she's ready to find a partner, but, she focused on her career first. Now she's with this energy of the clock, my biological clock is ticking, I want to have kids, I want this all, and they come out for desperate energy. What they end up doing is attracting people who are going to take advantage of them.
Yeah. I have this thing, when you try to rush things and force things and there's desperation, you miss a lot of red flags.
Absolutely.
And you miss them because you decide to ignore the red flags.
Absolutely. One of the biggest things I teach is to tap into our women's intuition. It is God's greatest.
Say that again. Tap into our women's
intuition.
Oh, our woman's intuition.
I think it's one of God's greatest gifts to us.
Absolutely.
And we've been for years raised to ignore it. To not pay attention to it. But once you start paying attention to it, you'll know immediately. I remember there's one particular person I dated who was a doctor as well. I graduated from medical school, I think probably the day before. This was literally, my graduation was on a Friday, and we had a date that Saturday. And we were dating for a few times before that. And before I went for the date, my mom was like, make sure you pray. And I'm like, I don't want to pray. I just want to go on this date. And I lied to you not. I prayed before I went on the date. We had a good time. He gets a phone call, and then his demeanor changes. And I'm like, Then he says to me, I need to let you know I'm actually seeing someone else. And I get in the car, and I cried. But I was like, you know what? God answered that prayer. And I had to accept that. And many times we don't want to bring our dating life into our prayer life. And we're like, no, God, I got this part. And then when we are in snafus or situations, then we want to ask for prayer and divine help to get out of it.
Yeah. God must be first in all of these situations,
Absolutely.
Including the dating. Now, we're saying dating, it's not synonymous with sex and fornication, and dating does not mean that you're going all the way or there's a home run, or dating just means dating. I think a lot of times there's a misconception, especially for women. So men, it's okay for them to date and have multiple different women that they are seen hanging out with, but when a woman has a lineup, 4 or 5 guys that she's kind of trying to determine who she wants to settle down with, it's not looked upon very favorably.
When you are looking for your potential partner, you have to be able to evaluate. Same way when you apply for a job, you don't apply to just one job and go through the process and wait. You apply to multiple. And so for someone to have the ultimate job of being your partner, who's going to be tied into you financially, emotionally, spiritually, health-wise, they're going to be your power of attorney if you're ever in the hospital, throwing in our, putting my medical hat. You have to be able to date multiple people. That doesn't mean that you give yourself to them physically, or even completely emotionally, but you give the opportunity and time to see who's going to come out up front.
What's the name of the dating company?
The name of the company is Elite Elegance, but
Elite Elegance.
Yeah, but for most part, my branding is more Dr. Josya Love and Dating Coach.
Okay. And so how does someone get started with you? What do they do? Do you set up a consultation? Do you meet in person? Is it done virtually?
Set up a consultation. I do it over the phone. And at that time, we see what their needs are, and then I let them know about my program and see whether it's a good fit for them. Okay. In addition to that, I do offer monthly master classes that I advertise through social media that people attend. Like the most recent one we did was Be Your Own Cupid. And so that was kind of helping people to kind of create their love plan for this year and to kind of think of things not fully with the emotional head on, but using their intellect into, and like it is possible to kind of put things in place to get the love they're looking for.
What do you think some of the challenges are for young people who are dating and they say they can't stand dating? Why do they hate dating?
I think the biggest thing is who they are attracting. And the reality with that is, who are you as a person? And are you really putting out that energy for the focus? Now, granted, my focus is dating with the purpose of marriage. There is casual dating. I have no problems with that. I've done it, been there, done that. That can definitely, maybe down the line, be its own thing. But if it's for the purpose of marriage, you have to be mindful. What energy are you putting out? Are you putting out energy that gives one night stand, that gives affair? Are you putting out energy that's like you only know how to live in drama? Right? Versus actual conflict resolution. So many times it's really a mirror that's being reflected back when people are saying they're having trouble with dating.
Yeah. And I like how you define casual dating and dating with intention. So I think there should be a clear difference made between the two, because when you're dating casually, I'm sure the woman behaves differently, the man is behaving differently. And oftentimes men will say, I don't want a relationship, I'm not looking for a wife. Do you find that more men say that than women? Are women upfront about what they want when they're casually dating?
They're not. They're not upfront, or what happens is the opposite. Say they don't want casual dating, but they'll go along for it with the idea that maybe the guy will change his mind. Maybe he'll fall in love with me. Maybe I'll be that one he picks out of the 4 to 5 he's dating right now.
Yeah. And I like that you mentioned that, because a lot of times women are very good for, and we're talking about us, so maybe men do this too, but we're talking about women. Women are great for thinking they can change a man's mind. Oh, he's doing this, he's doing that, and he said he won't do this or won't do that, but I can get him to do something different. They think it's because of the power of the punani that they'll be able to convince this man to do the opposite of what he is setting out to do. And that's such a false narrative.
It is delusional. and in fact, the other way around too, when guys think that they are God's gift to woman and that his, so many inches can take care of her, we have to realize there are...
Wait a minute. I'm sorry, Dr. J. You keep throwing out all these little gems and I'm just trying to
That's
catch
fine.
him.
That's fine.
You said he thinks what?
He's God's gift to woman based on his number. Based on his number of inches.
Number of inches of what?
Of his penis.
Okay.
They get digmatized. They have the vitamin D, right?
Yeah.
And so, he thinks like, well, if I give her, satisfaction, she's going to do whatever I want. Mm-hmm. But men have to realize, how many billion people on this planet? We're close to 8. So, I say that to women when they're dealing with a breakup, when they're dealing with infidelity and they want to fight over a guy. I'm like, there are 8 billion people on this planet.
Right.
There will always be another.
Yes.
There will always be someone who's better.
Walk across the street and hello, hi. hi. Go to the grocery store. Excuse me. Oh, do you want that loaf of bread? Oh, hi.
Absolutely. And that's the energy that needs to be carried into the intentional dating as well.
Yeah.
So back to the part of when people say that dating is hard or they're getting people who aren't of quality, back to the energy, what are you putting out there? If you're putting out, hey, confidence and competence in yourself, then you're going to attract people who are on that level as well. And so that then puts the foundation for the partnership that leads to marriage.
So someone who's been trying to date and can't get a date, and it's, I would say I'm a person where I find a redeeming quality physically in everyone. I don't think any person is ugly. So I don't want to specify that the lady is attractive or sexy or this or that. She's a woman who's looking for a man and she's dating but can't get dates. What does she need to do differently?
There's a multitude of things. The first one would be that self-introspection. What are the beliefs she's having about dating? What is the belief she has about men? I've had plenty of women come to me and say, well, I need a man who's X, Y, and Z. Okay, but that man does not exist. You don't even exist like that in female form.
Do you tell them that?
I do.
Good.
I do. And then so it's being able to then adjust their expectations versus what reality is. The truth is we're all little girls and little boys who've grown up. So when we step back in that way, we have a lot more grace in our dating experience. And then that's how we're able to then pick up the qualities of partners that have the longevity for marriage versus just for immediately. So for the woman who's, trying to date and not able to find, the first thing is that introspection. Then it's also, the next thing is now our strategy. Where are you placing yourself to find that man? I love using the example of Ruth and Boaz because a lot of women grew up in the church and they hear the example of, going to find my Boaz. But what they don't recognize is Ruth did not chase him, right? She had her mentor, who was Naomi, who said, you must do this and this and that to be in the place to be pursued. And many women in their careers, they exude a lot of masculine energy. They're leaders, they're directors, but when it comes to dating, they want to come with that same energy. The guy's not impressed with your degree. The guy's not impressed that you own 10 businesses, unless he's looking for someone to take advantage of. He doesn't care about that. He wants someone who's going to be a nice partner, who's going to give him peace when he gets home, who's not going to nag. And we don't want that either. We want to have peace. We want to have that safe haven.
Yeah.
So we have to look at that part of energy and, like I said, look where we're looking for the dating. And I think that's most times that's the issue, and then it becomes a little easier after that.
So I hear you saying look into yourself and look to see what your environment like, or who are there. I'm going to say this like folks say this in AA. People, places, and things. So where are the places you're going? Who are the people you're hanging around with? So the next question I have for you is, should couples be equally yoked sexually?
So to that question, no, I don't think you need to be equally yoked sexually, because you have so many different factors at play. You have, was either partner sexually active before getting together in marriage? And then what was their particular experience? You can have the guy who had, a high body count, but yet never communicated with those women. And so he thinks he's pleasing his wife and he's not. And you have the woman who, might have had her own body count as well. So I don't think you need to be equally yoked. You need to have equal communication, because even together in that marriage, you can still learn some new things. You can still try some new things. So I don't think you have to be equally yoked in that. Many people aren't. And so I don't think that's necessarily a deal breaker. In fact, it makes for more excitement because you have something to still learn about that person. And part of what makes a relationship, feel fresh is having something new every single time.
Yeah. So I think that we're assuming that each person in this unit are mature enough to communicate.
That is true.
And to be straightforward. And unfortunately, in a lot of relationships and couples, they're not straightforward with one another. They don't communicate well. They hide secrets. And I think when people hook up and they go into a relationship and get married and have these secrets and haven't learned how to communicate with one another, this is why not being sexually equally yoked becomes a problem. Because when you look at the essence of being sexually equally yoked, most people would think about, well, what turns you on, what turns her on, or what turns you on, what turns him on. They will think about the things that allow them to climax easily. They'll think about the ways that they like to engage in intercourse. They'll think about the frequency in which they engage intercourse, or how much, and really quite simply, how much he likes sex and how much she likes sex. As simple as that. But a lot of that gets clouded and complicated when there's no good communication in the beginning, and when people are not being straightforward about their wishes and their desires. And I'm saying this because I find a lot of couples who I counsel on couples therapy, oftentimes when they're courting, I would say probably a majority of couples are having premarital sex. So while they're courting, she is demonstrating that she likes sex, that she wants to engage in intercourse, and then once they get married, it changes. And that's a problem that a lot of men, when they come for individual psychotherapy, some of them are dealing with that issue too, is that the wife no longer wants to engage in intercourse the way they did when they were just dating. So obviously there's a lot of layers to that. And I always ask him, well, what's your responsibility in the situation? Let's not just point the finger at her. But so yeah, I hear what you're saying. Being equally yoked means that, the requirement of not being equally yoked suggests that these people are very mature and they can communicate and they can overcome hurdles or get around little hiccups and potholes when they have challenges in their relationship.
And you're missing another part. What if it's the other way around?
Which way?
Where the wife has more of a drive than the husband.
Yeah, that
doesn't get talked about either. And I think really at the heart of it, yes, there is an assumption about the maturity. And there's something to be learned from the kink community. There's definitely something to be learned from the kink community, and for those whose kink might be even polyamory or different types of kink. Biggest thing in the kink community is communication.
Yes.
It's really open communication throughout their interactions with one another. There's definitely about consent, obviously. But when you see that, you can definitely, how do I describe it? There's less judgment.
Yeah.
Right? There's like, okay, we're here, we're choose whether again, I'm using kink, so let's say the kink is like S&M or slave and master, what have you. There's always communication of this is our roles, this is when we decide we're going to be in our roles or not be in our roles or what have you. And so in the same way, just to kind of, and at the heart of it is non-judgment. Hey, we're just going to try to look to do the best for each other and have our safe space. And I think that's what couples need to have, to just be like, there's a whole lot of not reprogramming, a lot of unlearning that has to happen.
Absolutely.
The truth is, marriage has no book. Relationship, it is what you make of it, right? It is what you make of it. And again, I really hate to put up on the church, but the majority of leaders in the church are not therapists. They're not sex therapists. They're not marriage counselors. They don't have that training. They went to either divinity school, or to seminary, but they really don't have that learning to help when it comes to sexual compatibility and to teach people that way. If anything, sex is vilified. Sex is bad. And how do you go from it's bad and sinful to then being able to turning it on?
Yeah, to normalizing it. To normalizing that we should do.
And to the point of those who are having because I'm a physician. Nothing really surprises me at this point. Almost everyone's having premarital sex at some point, right? Or some kind of sexual intimacy. It might be for some a kiss, but it's still some kind of connection before marriage. And so for the woman who's I guess, having activity before or with a man, makes sense. You're trying to impress that person, but it's not real life. You're not going to necessarily be having, all-night marathons when you have work the next day, or you have kids, or you're stressed out because of work or what have you. So we have to think about dating is great. It's a wonderful experience, but it's not the full reality.
Yeah, no. Yeah. And so I think really just people being their authentic selves in every aspect of getting acquainted and dating. You mentioned the kink community. Those types of unique circumstances, they're successful because, as you said, they include communication. Communication really resolves all problems. When people communicate and talk and push themselves to dig deep and endure the difficult conversations, a lot of good change can come out of that.
Absolutely. It's the easiest thing is to quit. The easiest thing is to walk away. It's the hardest thing when you put in the work and actually go through therapy individually and as a couple to then be able to then build new tools that you probably didn't have in order to keep things going. And I think a lot of people, if they recognize that and realize that's a strength, to be able to, make advantage of those tools, that's going to help their dating experience a whole lot better. That's going to help their relationships a whole lot better. But it takes humility to accept that.
Yeah.
It takes strength to be like, you know what, I need some extra support in this part of my life.
Why should someone hire you to be their dating coach, romance coach, love coach?
Because we're going to help you save a lot of time. Instead of you trying to reinvent the wheel, or you're talking to the same circle of friends who haven't figured it out themselves, or they're in the next set, you need someone who's outside of it and say, okay, this is where we are, this is where we're going. Even, I love using the example of sports, because that's where the idea of coach comes from. Even LeBron has a coach. Yes, he's an all-star athlete, but he has coaches who can step back and say, this is where you need to tweak, this is what we need to improve. And so then you come back into your dating game with better strategy and so ultimately the better result.
So are you taking the time to get to know the person so that you can, I suppose, assist them with their quirks? Because sometimes, we can discover right away when we're talking to someone their quirks or the things they're doing that may make their situation more challenging.
Absolutely. And also being able to step back and say when they need to actually go into therapy, because I'm not their therapist, So being able to see their quirks and take them through the program and to be like, okay, we're working on your who you are as a person and your self-assessment. Your 360 assessment is what I actually do. Then we get into who you're looking for in a partner. Then we get into the fun part, which is the strategies of online dating. What goes on the profile? What doesn't go on the profile? What are we looking for in that other profile? In fact, I'm actually going to be doing a talk pretty soon, probably in the next couple weeks, on how AI is influencing dating. And that's huge.
Yeah.
And then the last part of my program is really, now we move it to offline dating. How do we engage in dates 1, 2, and beyond?
Gotcha. So in summary, it's not that you have a pool of men and a pool of women and you're matchmaking, putting them together. You are helping women to discover their true selves and to make themselves happier with themselves, and to then be able to, as a happy self, find their mate in a healthy system, shall I say. I think that when we date, when we're hurting, we make a lot of bad decisions. Did I say that correctly?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So it's not that you have a pool of men and a pool of women, you're putting them together.
No. I mean,
you're helping them go out there and find their person.
Correct. I mean, matchmaking might come along down the line, but I think for right now, where my focus is more my high-achieving, high-degreed women who, like I said, they're so used to being in their masculine energy and their executive functioning, and who are looking for that partner. They have all the degrees, but they want to have someone to share that with.
Would you be open to assisting men as well?
I think I would be, because some of the principles are still the same. Yeah. So we'll have to see, how it goes case by case. And that's the beauty of what I do at this time. It is still one by one, case by case. Eventually I might move into groups, but I think I want to definitely work with folks one-on-one for the moment.
Okay. All right. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And so let's say brain love.
Brain love.
Brain love.
For more brain love on the couch with board certified psychiatrist Dr. Delvena, make sure you follow on Instagram at Dr. Delvena and at DRT Brain Love. Also, make sure you tune into the Brain Love podcast, airing each and every Sunday at 8 p.m. with a new episode on all